Our Super Tuesday coverage continues. There are some big state and local races we're watching tonight, including Congressional District 49, the U.S. Senate race to fill the seat vacated by the late Senator Dianne Feinstein. But joining me right now are political analyst Laura Fink and Cole Marting, who's membership director with the San Diego Young Republicans. Thank you for being with us tonight. We appreciate it. Let's start out with Proposition 1, $6 billion plus for mental health beds and housing. I just want to start out, how important is this to the governor?
This is critical to Governor Newsom's legacy because homelessness, as you know, is a top issue for many Californians. This policy change would enable him to build and deliver on the promises of really attacking the issue of homelessness and putting some money where his mouth is. $21 million he has at his campaign's disposal with really very little opposition on the other side. What he faces, a low turnout election and a more conservative electorate than California usually sees.
Is this the right way to approach this, though, as opposed to doing it through the budget process? That's one of the big arguments, right? And we're paying interest on this as opposed to raising taxes to pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting proposition right now, and we're seeing that there's some gaining of momentum in opposition of it, right? The governor has spent millions of dollars in favor of this proposition. And in fact, if it doesn't pass, that might just be a canary in the coal mine for a potential recall of Gavin Newsom.
Is there any chance of that taking root? We went through this once. Do you think there's any chance we could go through another one?
Well, with a potential President Trump at the top of the ballot, you could see Republicans really turn out in favor of recalling Gavin Newsom, especially with the Republicans' support of a lot of independents lately in the polls.
Do you see something like that making it to another, even to pass the threshold to get to another election?
I mean, a recall, it was a special circumstance within the pandemic, but I think with the 2-to-1 two times the registration in California and the amount of money that would take to mobilize that, you'd have to have some deep pockets somewhere willing to do it.
All right, let's talk the U.S. Senate race. We have, right now, the two lead dogs are Adam Schiff and Steve Garvey. Do you see it playing out? That's what the polls have said. Is that who we're going to see in November? We'll start out with you.
I have no doubt that's who we're going to see out in November. Now, there could be a crazy situation where a second Democrat ends up getting into that general election. So let's say that happens. I have no doubt that there's going to be a bloodbath in that general election on the Democrat side. But I am confident that we're going to get a Republican into that general election.
There is some thought that Adam Schiff's campaign was a little cynical and talking about Steve Garvey a lot to raise his profile. Any chance that he's playing with his food here and could be in trouble in a general against Steve Garvey?
Again, the registration advantage means that his picking his opponent as a Republican means that he will have an easier time in November than against any Democrat where he might be neck and neck. But $31 million, that is his campaign total, which he raised after being censured a year ago today. That censure in the House of Representatives allowed him to be the tip of the spear in fighting Trump, to build that brand, and to really early on raise the money that allowed him to make those campaign choices.
He's had a lot of money, and we know that when he's talking about Steve Garvey, he's really been thinking about Katie Porter on the ballot and keeping her off. Let's go to the congressional races here. A lot of safe districts here. Is there one that jumps out to you that could anybody be in danger? I think the 49th might be. Is that a good guess?
It's a great guess. In fact, this has been a perennial target of the National Republican Congressional Campaign. You know, it's been targeted pretty much since 2018. This is one of the riskiest districts that Democrats currently hold, and there's a slate of 4 really strong Republicans that have a really solid chance of getting into the top 2 position to take on Congressman Mike Levin.
Mike Levin's turnout has decreased every election since he first won. Is he eroding support? Is he really in jeopardy of losing this seat?
Well, it seems to lean Democratic, this particular district, as it has been drawn. But Cole's not wrong. It really does depend, though, on who the Republicans select to face him. If they pick someone who is an arch conservative, it may not square with the district and the swing voters. So those 4 candidates and who they are really matter.
Do we see any big changes happening in the state legislature? We know California's got some issues, a big budget deficit. Homelessness is a big issue. Do you see voters doing anything to shift the power balance in Sacramento?
You know, it's been tough, no doubt, for Republicans for many years now in Sacramento, but there could be a potential to gain a couple seats here or there, especially when you have someone as prominent as Donald Trump on the top of the ticket, which we have no doubt he's going to end up there in the general election. That could really boost turnout, especially for the very conservative folks and even some of the moderates in November.
But could Trump also drive turnout with Democrats and make that deficit for Republicans even larger?
I mean, at this point, it looks like turnout overall at 29%, some are predicting, is going to be historically low. Now, that could favor the most conservative candidates in the field, whether you're talking small c conservative, whether you're talking about Democrats or you're talking about Republicans. So I don't know that there's going to be a sea change in the legislature as a result of how turnout comes out, but certainly it will impact the people on the ballot and who moves forward.
Any big surprises coming out of this that you see? Like in the state, is there something people aren't talking about that you think they should be looking at?
I think the biggest thing right now is Proposition 1. Could this proposition end up failing and hurt the governor significantly enough to really light a fire under that recall election? That's what I'm going to keep my eye on tonight.
Laura?
I don't think we're in any danger of seeing a recall. However, this is incumbent upon him to pass in order to sort of burnish his presidential future or credentials in races he may take on in the future.
So is that more what's at risk for Gavin Newsom right now, his presidential aspirations?
It's a legacy play at this point, but it's also, I mean, I'm sorry, Cole, I'll let you in, but it really is also about whether or not these homeless, these houses get built.
Let's not code it. Gavin Newsom has already started his presidential campaign, right? He is going and debating the governor of Florida. That's a presidential move. So if he ends up failing his biggest proposition this election cycle, that's going to be detrimental for his future aspirations.
It's going to leave a mark. Cole Marding, Laura Fink, thank you so much for your time and your insight. Appreciated the conversation.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Marcella?
Thanks, Carla, for bringing the very latest election results as soon as we get them. When the polls close tonight, you can see them here or at cbs8.com/election.